Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. So my name is Pranay Asutkar and I am a Salesforce developer with over 3 years of experience in Apex, Lightning Web Component, Flow Integration, Sales Cloud and Service Cloud. Over the last few months, I have attended multiple Salesforce developer interviews with different companies. In those interviews, I noticed that many interviewers ask real world scenario based questions instead of only theoretical concepts. So I decided to start this series where I will share the actual interview questions that I was asked along with the answer I give and the approach interviewers expect from an experienced Salesforce developer. If you are preparing for the Salesforce developer interview with a 2, 3 or even 5 year of experience, this series will help you to understand not only the correct answer but also the reasoning behind it. So without wasting any time, let's get started with today's first interview question. So first interview question is from external API call. So suppose you have 500 opportunity records and for each records you need to send the data to an external REST API. How would you implement it? So this is common integration scenario. The first thing I think about is Salesforce governor limits. Salesforce allow a maximum 100 call out per transaction. So if I try to process all 500 records in single transactions, it will fails with the too many call outs exception. To solve this, I would use a batch apex along with database dot allow call out. So the start so my approach here's my approach is the start method queries all eligible opportunities records. The execute methods process record in a batches, usually 100 records at a time, and for each opportunity I prepare the JSON request body and send a HTTP call out, and if the API returns success I update the opportunity status, and if the API fails I store the error message in a custom log object or future analysis. So this solution is scalable, follows governor limits and easy to monitor. So if, then the interviewer can ask you why not Queueable. So Queueable is excellent for smaller jobs, but Batch Apex is the better choice for processing hundreds or thousands of records because Salesforce automatically divide the works into the multiple transactions. So this is all about first question. Now move on the next question. So next question is, suppose two user open the same opportunity record. User A save first and user B save 5 minutes later. How do you prevent data loss? So this is a concurrency issue. So Salesforce use a optimist locking if another user modifies the record after I open it. So Salesforce detect the change during a save. If user B tries to save an autodate version, so Salesforce display an error including the record has been modified. So in custom Apex logic, I also avoid overriding like field unnecessary. I update only the fields that need to change. So for integration, I used to use a record like a change record like record version checks or compare the last modified date. So before updating, so this helps prevent accidental data loss. So best practice is never update every field blindly, update only the required field. So that's all about these questions, and move on the next questions. So this question is based on the trigger is hitting CPU time limits. So the question was, your trigger suddenly start throwing CPU time limit extend. How will you debug and fix it? So my first step is identifying where the CPU time is being consumed. Then I check nested loop, and then SOQL inside loops, and then DML inside loops, and recursive trigger execution, and expensive string manipulation, like and multiple flows and process builder running together. So after identifying the issue, I optimize the code. For example, instead of looping through accounts and then looping through the contact for every account, I create a map, like a map account and a list. So this reduces the complexity dramatically. I also move heavy processing to Queueable Apex if it doesn't need to happen immediately. Finally, I test again with bulk data, and the best practice is always write a bulky bike load, because even a trigger that works for one record can fail or 200 records. So that's all about this question. So move on the next questions. Next question is nothing but the integration authentication. So how would you securely authenticate with an external REST API? So I never hardcode a username, password, or access token in Apex. Instead of use a name credential, and using name credential securely store authentications details, and Salesforce automatically adds authentications headers. So if OAuth 2.0 is required, Salesforce request an access token, the external system validate credential, and Salesforce store the token securely. Uh, so this improves security and reduce maintenance. So interviewer can ask you why name credentials. So no hard coded password, secure authentication, easier to deployment, token management handled by Salesforce. So yeah, you can give the that type of answer to the interviewer. Move on the next question. So it is basically large data volume. How would you process some 5 millions of record? So I think it is a normal question. When you dealing with the millions of record, performance become a critical. So I avoid normal SQL because it can extend exit limit. So instead I use a batch apex, query locator, index field, selective SQL, or a proper filtering. So batch apex automatically process a record in a manageable chunks. So if the processing takes several hours, I also use the finish method to notify user by email once the job completes. So best practices: never query unnecessary field. Retrieve only the fields required for your business logic. So that's all about this question. Move on the next question. This is the last question. Trigger versus flow. The interviewer asked me, your client asked for the automation. How would you decide between flow and trigger? So my decision depend on the complexity of the requirement. If it's simple automation such as updating fields, sending emails, creating related records, approval process, like so for this I use record trigger flow because it's declarative and easy for the admin to maintain. So if the requirement involves like a complex business logic, multiple related objects, REST API or SOAP API integration, large data processing, advanced validation, or complex calculation, so I use Apex Trigger because it offers better flexibility, performance, and control. In many enterprise projects, both Flow and Apex coexist. I carefully define responsibility to avoid duplicate logic and recursion. So in a real Salesforce interview, don't just so that's all about the questions. In real Salesforce interview, don't just give the answer. Explain why you choose the solution, how you implement it, and which best practice you follow. That's what interviewer look for experienced developers. So yeah, If you found this interview question helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. I will be upload more real scenario interview questions from my own interview experience. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.